Hi, this is Claudia Stanek, reading for Writers and Books Literary Partners series. The first poem I'd like to read for you is based on the titles of TV shows where the words in the titles all began with the word all. And the title of the poem is All About Us. All God's children, all American girl, all worked up, all about boys, all jacked up, all about the opposite sex. All of us, all souls, all in the family. All my children, all grown up, all that's fit, all that glitters, all in good taste. All star secrets, all that, all is forgiven. All aboard. The next few poems are based on a trip I took to Europe in 2017. The first is titled On the Train from Krakow to Berlin, June 2017. It has the following epigraph. A curse it is to be one's own. Katarzyna Boruń-Jagodzińska, translated by Karen Kowalczyk. Miles and miles of poppies, raved passengers, unloved and unlovely, who do not notice the slightly orange-tinted red flowers standing in the sun, or drooping their petal heads in a passing shower, as if to submit to discipline demanded. But, determined, they resume their predestined rebellion in the rays of lengthened days. Every flower of remembrance cannot obey the command to love. It is the curse of self to be one's own, even a little while. Petals fall, stems wither. What follows will not matter when the light fully wanes. My ancestors are from Poland and Germany, and I went to visit my Polish grandmother's ancestral village. Home. On the long drive to Babci's old country home, I tell my Polish guide what I remember about her later years, her chickens and her peevish geese she would beat, the occasional possum Dad would catch for her, how after school I might see an unlucky one in the way-back kennel. The next day, its trapped absence would echo off the trees. I tell my guide how Dad and his brothers were consigned to the barn, whatever the weather, while their sisters slept in the ramshackle house that still had no indoor plumbing when Babci died in 1972 in the Erie County home, her body propped up in the midst of piss and sterility in the middle of February. I never heard if a priest arrived in time to give her extreme unction, if she even wanted it. I ask my guide if the young people are still religious in Poland these days. He assures me everyone will be at Mass on Sunday. I explain that in my country, many practicing Catholics attend Mass on Saturday instead. He thinks I am confused. Of course, the priest says Mass every day, but what does a Catholic need to practice? I tell him what my Lutheran convert dad said, how Babci and he didn't have much faith in priests, how the priest would take their last chicken, payment to administer the sacraments. Even so, an expected crucifix hung in her bedroom. A plastic statue of the Blessed Mother stood on her dresser, dusty. Both were absent from her last room at the home. How absurd it was at Babci's funeral, her daughters in their bulky black dresses and black lace mantillas, taking turns flinging themselves onto her casket. My aunts hadn't spoken to her or each other in years. I don't recall which of them won that last desperate grasp of Bocce's hand clamped around a rosary. I wonder if she misses the taste of possum. The wall. I enter the wrong country code, trying to phone a contact in Krakow while in Berlin. When a man answers, I quickly speak in practiced Polish. "Good day, sir." But before I can utter another word, the man shouts in German-accented English, "You're in Germany, speak English," and hangs up. Outside the hotel, parts of the fragmented wall form freestanding columns. Smiling children on field trips take each other's photos as they stand tall in front of something so unimaginable, so far in the past, that a wall could divide a city, a family, a nation. They are all learning to speak English. There are so many forests of birches in Europe. This poem is called Birches. See, against the light, the body's landscape is marked by pain's highway. Fracture lies within. The glowing sea of the mind stream twists itself into noir nanosecond glass. God plants you beneath birches. Angels rattle the leaves in chant. This is still a practice in Poland today when spring comes. Marjanina. From the birch leaves yellowing till the willows begin to green, what passes between is a bitter record of repeated retreat. And you are the steward of the splendid remains, until, at your consent, children burn, then drown you, a sacrifice to spring. A cosmology. There stands a shed covered in tar paper, set upon concrete blocks to keep its wooden frame from rotting. It is an accident giving shelter from the rain to creatures that scoot in and out as they choose, unconcerned with April. How long is 5 minutes to feral cats? Perhaps it has been raining for a feline year, and the shed is an ancient monument built by gods who do not seek their worship. This next poem is a persona poem inspired by Raymond Divers. And if you hear any noises in the background, that's just my little Shih Tzu trying to get my attention. On arriving in India and walking the streets of Mumbai in monsoon season, so many shades of bodies wedged into corners of buildings trying to escape the dousing rain. Skin barely clothed, exposed to water splashing sideways instead of down, wind forcing its horizontal flow. We are moved along by a throng, careful that our bodies do not touch, as if we or they were covered in oozing contagion. I can see now why Father said to look straight ahead, eyes slightly down, not to step where the lowest lie. their homes the space within their own thin frames, skin outlining bone. So fragile, the slightest touch would only add to their misery. These unwelcome inside Hindu temples, to beg Varuna to end his reign. I wonder if offering shelter will be enough to move them into the house of our God, where we will feed them and tell them each of us is a temple, a place for him to dwell. If only I could extend my hand to lift one off the street. But I do as I am told. Do not touch. Transparent language. When you raise your eyes to the punctuated sky, you see letters of all scripts scattered in mock collage. When you shield your eyes from the glory of the sun, you see the random spatter of the words that matter most on your palm. When your eyes no longer see anything but a mist of light, the magnifier that should illumine sentences will brand your hand. When you wish you had never known sight, you will listen for transparent clauses, but hear the lonely braille of I. Smoke and Cloud, with an epigraph from Neruda. Does smoke talk to the clouds? From fireplaces and foundries, forests bereft of foliage, crack houses abandoned but full, trains aflame off their tracks, roofs stabbed by lightning, smoke's ashy arms stretch beyond pillows of vapor, then shrug back into the soft embrace of cloud. Smoke speaks nothing of this sacrifice for the sake of ethereal communion, in submission to the force that would douse its origins, but which chooses instead escape. The Queen Loses Her Steel, Buffalo, New York, 1982. It was all about the Pennsylvanians and their steel, but the Queen City's forges were freezing over like Lake Erie in January, shutting down the lake effect as progress did the mills. The TV networks didn't focus their time on downtown Buffalo. Unemployment lines curled around the block, like the aspirations of those waiting at 2 degrees below, their warm prayers crystallizing in the Great Lakes exhale. The government did good, gave them 3 extra months on the dole, but old Willie didn't get that job telling folks to have it your way. For $5 less an hour than his glazed skin, making patterns for parts had bought him. Just 7 years shy of retiring, Willie planned to move out, maybe to Depew, where he'd heard there were working-class folk like him. Quiet life, out of the furnace, safe, if silicosis didn't get him. Maybe there were more Willies in PA, and he sure knew how thick the frost-covered windows in unheated homes. But what about next winter, when their shared lake froze over again? Well, they'd all go south. And the last poem, like the first, is taken from TV titles. This time, the common word is we, which begins each line. And the title of the poem is We. We live here. We live next door. We've got each other. We are one body. We've got it made. We, the jury, we mean business. We shall remain. We've got to do better. Thank you for listening.